Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only podcast in the world dedicated to cycling fashion, style, aesthetics, and culture. I am your host, Alex, joined by my regular co-hosts, Warren and Tony. And this week, we are coming to you live from the physical location in beautiful Montreal, Rue Saint-Denis, from our partners at Le Club. Le Club believes that cyclists should demand more from their cycling experience. So go to leclub.cc. You can find the latest MAAP collection. They've got it all. You can get it from leclub.cc. Pretty big selection of MAAP. They've also got Albion. They've also got Universal Colors. leclub.cc, the nicest people, the best coffee. Check them out. Warren and Tony, how are you guys doing this week? We are live from Montreal.
I think we should introduce our guest because he's sitting right here.
Well, I was going to wait till the interview, but Warren, you broke it to our listeners. We are actually lucky this week to be joined by Jarrad Smith, the founder of MAAP, who is in Montreal right now. He's been on a little North American tour, leaving Australia in the winter for North America in the summer, and he's in Montreal with us today. We have a big interview coming with Jarrad Smith from MAAP today, live from Le Club. So welcome, Jarrad. Welcome to Montreal.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bonjour, I should say. But a bit rusty on the French, mate. It's been a few years since I've spoken French. We did learn it at school when I was a youngster, but most of that's gone out the door. But it's great to be here, and looking forward to having a chat with you guys.
Yeah, well, I said this to you before, but we've talked about it on the podcast. You guys are. I'm putting you at the number one of the power rankings. I don't know how they sort of do sports teams in Australia, but in North America, the major sports will usually, the media outlets will come out with what they call the power rankings of the team. Sometimes the power rankings of the players. So they'll say that, this is the best team, and they sort of give a description. They're not necessarily the best record, but like where they are in the league. And so I kind of always have a mental note of power rankings of kit, whether it's the quality of design, what I see sort of in the public as I'm riding around. And right now I got MAAP number one power ranking. Wow. I won't go through all the details of why, but they're producing incredible stuff. The collections are dropping, they're great. And there's a lot of people wearing it, and it means everyone looks good.
We just did the Club group ride this morning. I think that's what Alex was planning on bantering about before I spoiled a secret before introducing Jarrad, but we're all wearing MAAP kit right now, and there's a lot of people this morning wearing MAAP as well on the Le Club
so
group ride.
The Le Club Cycling Fashion Week MAAP group ride drew over 100 people this morning. I like to think that it was really the Cycling Fashion Week name that drew the people to the group ride, but I'm maybe a little bit delusional. I think it was maybe more MAAP that attracted people. Yeah. But big group ride this morning, guys. A lot of community.
A lot of community. I just want to say, though, about the group ride, and shout out to us, Cycling Fashion Week, and I guess the club for making sure that in their promotion of the ride, the MAAP and Cycling Fashion Week logo were the same size. That's showing that Cycling Fashion Week is on the same level as MAAP.
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
So love the group ride. Great group ride. We're in the coffee shop right now. Got to chat with everybody. Very fun group ride this morning. A lot of climbing. My only criticism, there was a gravel segment. We're not big gravel people here on Cycling Fashion Week, but other than that, it was a perfect group ride. So what we have coming today, we have Jarrad Smith from MAAP. He's going to join us for the entire episode, and basically we'll do an interview with MAAP, where they're going, what's next for the brand, what are their plans, but we'll have Jarrad join us as well for our regular segments, such as In the Canal.
Well, and we're also going to rate a bike live. It's 3 feet away from us for the first time. It's not a photo that somebody sent us on Instagram.
We can really get deep into it. We can look at it, make sure that the photo's not tricking anybody. But
we have to make sure to get a photo of the bike.
Well, we will put it up on Instagram so that our listeners can weigh in as well. But it's we've got a really interesting one today to rate. Mm-hmm. All right, why don't we get into the interview with Jarrad?
I'm sure he's excited.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped.
Jarrad,
how many coffees have you had?
I've had about 14 coffees, about 1 hour's sleep. And I'm fired.
Actually, I gotta say, Jarrad, when I met him, so came back from the ride, met him in the coffee shop this morning. First thing he told me, I'm wearing the MAAP Axis kit right now, the pink jersey. Jarrad looks at me sort of from head to toe, and he said, "Mate, you look lean and shredded right now." So this is a man who knows how to speak to dads who don't get to ride that much, who are pretty self-conscious about their fitness.
Yeah.
You know, he went straight for my heart right away like that. So I feel pretty positive towards Jarrad right now.
Yeah.
But what are you doing in Canada right now, Jarrad? What's happening?
I actually got my family here. We've had a bit of a working vacation, you could call it. I had to come to North America for work, so with lockdowns for 2 years, I decided and asked my wife if she wanted to come with the kids. So we decided to pack them up and get them on the road with me. And I spent a month in LA. And from there, I was going to New York, Miami, San Francisco. Once I rounded that trip up, we headed north to Vancouver and now Montreal. So we've got a family week here and been able to have a few meetings and do the podcast and catch up here at Le Club for a MAAP pop-up, which has been great. And I've been meeting a lot of customers this morning and helping them with their sizing and picking some colorways and getting them looking good. But and unfortunately, I missed the group ride this morning due to a little bit of family illness, which I don't want to bore you with. But not COVID, thankfully. But the kids and wife got a little bit run down this week, probably from a lot of travelling. I've been dragging them around, so I missed that ride this morning, which I was all set for. But next time I'll be back for sure.
Yeah, we'll be there. All right, this is a very important question.
Here we go.
I don't know how much you're part of the marketing, so maybe you can't answer this, but will you confirm or deny that the brand's use of the word panache is directly related to this podcast's use of the word panache?
I have heard you guys use that word a few times, and unfortunately, I have to tell you, I do not write the copy for marketing, but I have heard them reference you guys before, so perhaps it could be due to you guys.
That's a yes.
Subtle influence.
That's a yes.
I'm saying, like, the panache has been around the cycling world for a long time, but I would say it dipped. And then we came out, and I've seen it kind of go back up. I mean,
we have a whole segment with the word panache, so it's definitely
so it's important. But I mean, it's a great word, and it's. I mean, MAAP, is it the definition of panache? Am I being a little, MAAP's got panache.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll leave that to you guys to judge, but I'll take it. Thank you.
The P in MAAP stands for panache, I think.
There
right?
you go.
Actually, will you tell us what MAAP stands for? There's many theories. There's a lot of wild theories
Well, it's
out
written
there
on
the
your
internet.
there's one version on your jersey right
merging
now.
aesthetics and performance,
Movement,
art, and progress.
There you
There's
go.
various versions of it. Can you tell us what the version is? What the official
We do
one?
have a few versions. The top secret one is, it started out as MAAP, and it was Melbourne Apparel. That's how we sort of discovered the word, and literally had it scribbled on a box when we were just starting out the brand, and M-APP, and due to trademarking, etc., we weren't able to trademark it that way, and then we discovered that with swapping the P for an A, it was an awesome word, and it was just a really bold, strong word, and the word map itself obviously derives from going for a bike ride, looking at the map, and just getting lost in the wilderness or whatever, using the map. So using the double A is use of mountaintops, and in the graphic sense, it was a really solid, strong word, and we just fell in love with it. And since then, we've come up with a few different versions of the word,
Cool.
what it means. But my kids actually love their favourite one. My kid's name are actually Miller, and our dog's name was Alfie, and my son is Pim. So Miller, Alfie, and Pim, that's their favourite version.
Oh, nice.
But I can't say that's how it came about, because they were actually born after the brand. But so that's their favourite. But merging aesthetics and apparel is pretty, and performance is probably the most recent one that's stuck
I like
with
that
us,
one
so-
personally. We're definitely more on the aesthetics side here than the performance side on this podcast, but I do like that version of the MAAP acronym. So question for you, Jarrad. We're interviewing you live from Le Club right now, which itself has a bit of a clubhouse vibe. I'm sure the listeners can hear the ambiance noise in the background, the espresso machine working. So a bit of a clubhouse vibe. People come for the morning ride, they hang out, grab a coffee. There's a little retail shop here as well, so they can kind of sample the latest products from MAAP and a variety of other brands. You guys have a physical retail strategy right now that you are going into, bricks and mortar retail, which is kind of contrarian a little bit, at a time in COVID and post-COVID where people have increasingly shifted online for shopping and for commerce in general. Tell us about that strategy, what you guys have, what your plans are for the overall retail strategy.
Yeah, good question. So before the pandemic came about, we actually opened our first store in Melbourne, and that was really successful. And that was kind of like a bit experimental. It was under our head office, so we sort of built an office and shop in the one building. And from there, we sort of realised, this is working. We love the idea, the concept, so let's roll these out. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit and everyone sort of went to ground, and we worked from home for a couple of years. And in that time, things were going pretty well online and going well with our wholesale partners. And so we started planning the future of MAAP, and we still wanted to roll out retail, and it gave us time to really design the concept and worked with a creative agency, and that's how we came up with the word lab, MAAP Lab, which is life around bikes. And we really gave us time to plan out the strategy of our retail plan, and now that the gates have been lifted from Australia and we're allowed to travel again, we got back out on the road, and that's part of my trip now, is just discovering cities where we see a strong connection with MAAP, and we'd love to open stores. And we definitely see that's the future of MAAP, and to open up stores around the world, just to be able to have a space for our customers to come and experience the brand and try on the products firsthand and see the latest colours and collections. And there's that many products now, it's very hard for all our stockers to carry the whole brand, even for our own store, with the amount of launches we have and the categories we're expanding into. Each city has a bit of a different type of cyclist also. So, for instance, LA may have a bit more of a gravel scene, like you guys said. Maybe Montreal, Toronto doesn't, and there might be more alt-road in those stores. And so, yeah, it'd be good to be able to showcase the brand in different cities around the world, and it's basically more just for that touch and feel experience.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was chatting with Guillaume, one of the founders of Le Club, yesterday, who's actually sitting right next to us here yesterday, and he was
There he is.
and he was saying that post-pandemic, there's a desire from people, first of all, to get together and just socialize after being locked down for so long, especially you guys in Australia. I mean, you've had pretty intense lockdowns, but also people want to feel the product, want to touch the product, which you don't necessarily get by shopping online. So it's interesting that you guys are going in that direction at the moment.
Yeah, like literally once the government said we could leave the country and come back without a serious sort of forced lockdown on yourself, but we hit the road, my partner Ollie and I, and been to, in the last couple of months, London, Amsterdam, Sicily, Italy, parts of Italy, all over the US and now Canada, and now we've been let out. We are hitting it hard, and what I'm finding is everywhere I'm going is this community of people in every city. It's been overwhelming how many people are getting into the bike and enjoying it and enjoying those group rides. And I just had one in LA. We had close to 200 people. We were pulled over by the police because the crowd was so big, and it's just been overwhelming everywhere in Miami and New York. Like it's crazy how what I'm finding, so many new people have come to the sport in the last couple of years, and they've discovered something new to them, and MAAP's new to them as well. And so I've been riding for 20 years. So I've been around watching the Tour de France as a kid, and grew up sort of involved with cycling and having raced in the past. So seeing these type of customers come to the sport, it's amazing, and be able to show them how much fun you can have on the bike, and you can look good doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of group rides, you guys have a ride out of the lab in Melbourne with the greatest name for a group ride called the Mappuccino ride.
Yes.
Are you going to A, trademark it, B, then when you license it out to your global retailers like Le Club so they can have their own Mappuccino ride.
You haven't taken the trademark from me, have you, mate? Haven't gone in there?
No, I couldn't take it. It's too good. It's Warren's in advertising. He's actually a copywriter, and he knows how well that.
When I heard about that name, I was like, "That's the greatest group ride name ever." Because most of them are just like, no offense to the club ride, but the Mappuccino.
Yeah, that was
perfect.
part of that time off, you could say, being locked indoors and having that time with our creative agency. And it was actually funny, one of the meetings we had with them, and they were running over some of the ideas. Okay, we've got this and that and the Mappuccino ride. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. What did you just say? That's like the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because I do love a cappuccino myself.
Yeah.
And in Australia, we do that a little differently than anywhere else I've noticed, where we sprinkle a little bit of chocolate cocoa on top.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't been able to find that anywhere else.
Australia has a great coffee culture. Like they came up with the long black, they came up with the flat white. They do sort of everything a little bit differently. Like that's something I think is very underrated. That people are thinking about certain things about Australia and they don't know how good the coffee culture is there.
Speaking of that, can you get a coffee at MAAP Labs?
Yeah, so we're not a cafe per se, but we definitely offer a premium coffee. We have a La Marzocco machine in the MAAP Lab in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. We do employ full-time barista, so if you're in there shopping, you can experience a coffee.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily selling them.
Okay.
It's more that shopping experience, you're coming to try the kit on, or after group rides, yeah, sure, we've got the coffee flowing and servicing
Cool.
the customer that wants to.
And the
get a
design
coffee.
of the spaces is pretty unique as well, right? The architecture. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the concept is to whichever city we're opening the stores in, we're using local architects. Mm-hmm. So in Melbourne, we've used Claire Cousins, who's done our last shop, and she's also done our head office, which we just moved into last November. And we work closely with her team for the last 12 months to open up the MAAP Lab in Melbourne. And so happens that her brother is my business partner, Oliver Cousins. So very talented family. And she's one of the most highly regarded architects in Australia. And she's worked on a lot of the Aesop stores and Mecca. So we're very proud and honoured that she has designed the store for us.
I mean, I was going to say we obviously haven't been to the lab in Melbourne yet, but like the photos, because I think you sent out an email when it launched, and just looking at the photos, I was like, I mean, it definitely doesn't look like any other cycling retail space I've been in before.
It's very elevated for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a elevated, high-end, high street type store. It's we wanted to have a real showcase of the brand in a beautiful space. Even using the furniture from Australian Melbourne designer Jarrad, coffee table from Grazia. Everything's really sort of been curated for the store.
Right. I think we were speaking to you before this interview just to like hear a bit more about where MAAP was going, and is that sort of part of the plan for the labs is to like tie in some of the like local places wherever they are? So you're mentioning how you're using local furniture, that kind of thing in Melbourne. Is that part of the plan wherever you're opening a lab?
Yeah, definitely. So we're currently working with a designer in London because we're opening a store in London next. That's breaking news, I suppose. And so we're using a awesome local architect there. And the same thing we'll be doing is, sourcing local furniture, materials. We also have a map edit in each location, and that's the Melbourne one, for example. There's a little edit of other brands from Melbourne, like Aesop. We've got a small section, selection of products from them, and a local record store has got some vinyl in there, and we've got a headset and a record player, so you can listen to some music. And so each store will have what we call the map edit. So you're able to come in, if you've come in from overseas, you're able to join the shop rides, the Mappuccino ride if you're into the coffee, and play some vinyl. check out some other local products. So that'll be the same for each location.
Will I get dropped at the shop ride?
If I'm not getting dropped, I don't think you'll be getting dropped. I actually haven't been on the shop ride yet because I literally left as they were starting. Because that shop I was there for the opening of the store, then I headed off to LA. So, but it was in the middle of winter, so. But I have seen some big turnouts already, and they're looking very popular.
So where can we expect to see these MAAP labs pop up? Like, what other cities do you think will? I mean,
Well, he's broken London.
If you could tell us, we got a big scoop on London.
well, maybe
Yeah.
you'd have to kill us if you tell us the other ones, but
We'll redact.
We actually, I haven't actually got the definitive list in front of me. We've got some ideas ahead of us, but look, we would like to, tick off each continent, but it will come, at pace. So we'll get London up and running. It'll take, the next 6 to 12 months, and then we'll probably, be looking towards Asia, and then potentially the Americas. So I won't go into too much detail today, but
Fair enough.
but we will be coming to the continent soon.
And what is it? A question I always have for Australian brands, like, what is it about Australia that has made you guys take over the cycling fashion world? It seems like Australia, country, what's the population about? Like 40 million people in Australia?
28 million?
25 to 28.
Okay, so smaller population than Canada.
Yep.
But you guys punch way above your weight in terms of the cycling world. Cycling fashion, various brands
even the
coming out of Australia.
pros,
The pros, like what is it? Is it weather? Is it the coffee? What is it?
I don't know, mate. It's just we must have too much time on our hands. I think just growing up, it's very outdoors, and I think personally I was thrown into sports as a kid, swimming, football, cycling. I discovered on my own, but. And then with the fashion side of it, there's like Melbourne in itself has got a lot of fashion brands have come out of Melbourne. So you've got a lot of creative people living there. It has that real seasonal environment. So we do definitely get 4 seasons per year, compared to, say, Brisbane, which is more summer all year round. It's got, great weather up there.
Sometimes it goes from 32 to 30 in Brisbane, Just drops. You gotta put a sweater on.
Your dad's from there, right?
My
Tony?
dad's from Brisbane, and that's actually. I asked him, "What's the first thing you noticed about Canada?" And he goes, "Jackets. You need like 14 jackets to live here." He's like, "When I was a kid, I had one sweater." And that's all because sometimes it would be like 15 and like a cool evening or whatever, you put a sweater on. He's like, when I moved here, I needed a winter jacket, a lighter winter jacket, a rain jacket, a cold rain jacket, a warm rain jacket. So
Maybe that's why Australia has a better influence on cycling fashion, is because they can just focus on not to say MAAP doesn't have like a great selection of jackets. My first rain jacket was actually, I still have it, it's from MAAP. They can just focus on the, I don't know.
You reminded me of a heartbreaking story. I have one of the first...
I think it was our first rain
jacket. I think it was
jacket.
one of your first rain jackets, the black one with the kind of sort of wavy stripe.
The MA logo.
Yeah, it's kind of thing. And I crashed and ripped it, and I was just heartbroken. Like
Were you hit by a car?
I was hit by a car,
Right.
and that was what had caused the crash.
Yeah.
Wasn't my bike handling skills, and I ripped it. And I was like heartbroken because I knew it was to sound as sort of hipster and pretentious as I can, that I knew MAAP before everyone else, or at least everyone else in Canada, and I was like, this is like definitely an early run of a MAAP thing, and I wanted just to have it forever, and it just got destroyed.
It would have even been hard back then. We wouldn't have even been able to replace it for you, I'm guessing, because we had such short runs. It would have been hard to. And that jacket was we sourced that fabric from Japan. It was an amazing jacket. I've still got one
Warren's
myself.
still have it. He didn't get hit by a car.
It's almost bulletproof.
Yeah.
It's not car-proof.
Tony and I remember shortly after we both. Tony copied me. He bought one after he bought one after I bought it in the same color. But we actually rode it in a full-on downpour, and my upper body was wet. Anyway, great jacket. But I feel like I was going somewhere there and I lost the track. We just started talking about the rain jacket.
It,
but no, I was just saying that's why Australia produces. Because I honestly my favorite kits coming out of Australia. MAAP was like the first nice brand of clothing I bought. Personally, mainly because Tony came back from Australia and told me about it. But
which I want to know. The story was told that I saw a MAAP at the St. Kilda Crits, someone racing in it, and I want to know maybe if it was Jarrad. This was probably 2000. maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, it was probably me as I was retiring, or I could have even been Ollie, my business partner, because we were, a bit of tag teaming back in the day.
I just remember seeing it and being like, I was with a friend. He was racing, and he was also racing in the A race. And I remember seeing someone, and then afterwards I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this Melbourne," and that's why I heard it was called Melbourne Apparel.
Yeah.
This Melbourne thing, and it was just so. I was like, "This is." Because you didn't even really come to Canada. Nothing was kind of like it all kind of to me a lot of that after Rafa started sort of in Australia, and I was like, this is awesome stuff. So
speaking of racing,
yes,
you guys did one of the great kits of race teams, MAAP Rita. There was MAAP Basso as well. Like, any involvement in racing planned for MAAP in the next few years?
It's funny you mention those brands. They were those teams. They were the very early on teams which evolved from teams that I'd had previously been involved with. And yeah, so after realizing it takes a lot of time to run your own team, so we decided to sponsor some of the up and coming great teams, and we have sponsored some other teams, Inform and Benelong, and they were the top amateur teams in Australia. And then went on to sponsor Trinity with Tom Pidcock, and they had some great success with those guys. And then we've had a year out because a lot of the teams we sponsored during the pandemic couldn't race, so we produced all the product and paid the money, and unfortunately unable to race, so we just took a break. And now we're just sort of been watching the landscape, and yeah, we're ready to get back into it over the next couple of years at various different levels we're sort of looked at. And
maybe a world tour level.
Oh, that's a big call, but it is a lifelong dream of mine, probably, to say that we've been able to sponsor a team like that. But just a matter of timing, I suppose. And
I just had an Astana MAAP. That would be incredible.
An Astana MAAP team. Oh yeah.
Are we launching the rumor here? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think the thing
you could
is
have
like
a song too.
But who need? Like, the question is, it's more about like who needs MAAP's design skills, because like Jumbo Visma, that jersey. We had a Dutch person on the ride. I should ask them about it, but that jersey was so awful.
Complicated.
The masterpiece,
the masterpiece
the
jersey,
tour jersey
with the like generative design of two Baroque painters and then an impressionist, and it didn't work. So I feel like they need your skills more than anybody else.
I don't think their normal kit's not bad. So I guess
that's true. Who's got actually works out, because the worst kit in the Pro Peloton is the Australian team.
Bike Exchange.
Bike Exchange.
They have the worst kit in the Pro Peloton.
Sorry, Jared.
And they're I hope
we didn't design it. That's fine.
I know. So maybe they need you. Maybe.
Well, if we were to ever sponsor one of those teams, as long as they let us design it, then we'll be on board.
Because I think we've maybe talked about the MAAP Rita kit before.
Yeah,
Tony's mentioned
I love it. I want to find a jersey. I don't know if I can eBay it. I don't know if Jared's got some stash somewhere.
It's 5 years ago. I had to really think back to actually what it was, but we actually made a kit to sell from it. It was called the Cloud jersey.
Yeah.
So if you Google Cloud jersey, I'm sure you'll be able to find one.
Well, yeah, because you mentioned that before we started recording, the Cloud jersey, and I totally forgot, but I remember that jersey because I think I tried to buy the non-team version of it, but it was like sold out pretty quick, or I don't remember why, but that one stuck out a lot for me because that was like one of the, I'd bought some nice solid color jerseys, and that was the first time I'd like, whoa, maybe I'll buy something a little wilder. But I think I wasn't confident enough in my cycling ability to buy that Cloud jersey because it was pretty wild, but it was great. Like, all the team designs you've done, even I think the last one you did with Trinity, like, I don't know, I was a big fan. Speaking as, there's just so many bad team kits.
Let's talk about the design direction of the brand overall. You guys are an interesting mix of bolder styles with various colors, nice geometric shapes, but you also have the block colors, the more kind of minimalistic styles as well. And that's one thing I talk about a lot on the podcast, but I find in the last few years, the pendulum has really swung towards the minimalistic side of things. Like, you see a lot of brands come out with block colors, earth tones, very kind of simple design. But now it seems to be shifting back to the other side a little bit, like the bolder designs. And you guys are an interesting mix of both. Like, where do you see the brand go from a design perspective?
Well, it's kind of nice. It's in our DNA to have those bold designs. So when we launched, we did launch with 5 out there sort of jerseys, a bit like the Access jersey we've got on today, which derived from the team jersey, which was from day one. So we have had a passion for graphic design and bolder designs, and then the simplistic sort of block colours is, Ollie and I just love that sort of style and minimalistic type fashion, but I love having both in my wardrobe. So, one day I want to wear my Vade jersey, the next day I'm in the Access, and being able to express, each day of the week you can wear something different. It's the same when we cross into different categories, like Alt Road is very earthy and very, outdoorsy, you could say. So, I think the DNA's been set, so we can play in both fields, and I think that's the attraction to MAAP as well. You can have a bit of fun with it.
What I love about the Access kit personally is I came to cycling in the late 1990s when I was a teen and sort of watching the Tour de France on TV at that time. And I don't know, we're in the club right now. We just came back from the group ride, so we've all got our bikes here. My bike here is a bike from the early 2000s. Shout out Lance Armstrong. And what I love about the Access kit is it kind of reminds me of a team kit from that era, like early 2000s, late 1990s. So I guess I'd call it neo-vintage a little bit. Like there's a certain vintage element, but not that far back. So anyway, really love it. It's fun.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying about the direction of brand, because you mentioned the alt-road stuff, and even beyond the alt-road, you're also doing a lot of, like, I guess you call it off-bike stuff, like with the down jackets and that kind of thing. Like you're, I don't think you're the only cycling brand to do that, but it seems like that kind of collection, the off-road, has been growing a bit for MAAP. Would you say that's...
like Ollie, my background was working in fashion, and so doing the clothing is actually kind of where we've come from. We do enjoy designing clothes in general, so that building out that collection, we still want it to be sort of derived from cycling, so it's transit collection is for commuting basically. So the fabrics, we choose all the fabrics that are either absorbing sweat, or they're stretchy, materials, so you can still be comfortable when you're riding, but they're also quite fashionable. But it's still a smaller part of the business, so we're very much focused on the on-bike, but that is a category we're playing in, the off-bike, but definitely not the focus, but it's nice to be able to have it there. Plus, most of our stores we stock mapping, they're bike shops, and so they're not really selling apparel, so it's not as big a part of our business. But as the MAAP labs grow, we've got more of those stores, a place for ourselves to sell our own products, and we're also in places like Harrods, so there's a place for that commuter wear there as well.
I mean, despite the fact we're all wearing kit right now for the first time ever while recording, I think, but we wear clothes off the bike as well, so it's also, I do appreciate when cycling brands do that personally, because usually it looks pretty good, as yours does.
Cheers.
Tony loves showing people that he's a cyclist when he's off the bike.
Oh, I love it. It's just got listen, I've been talking about making sure musettes become the new hipster tote bag, right? I want everyone to just walk around. I use a musette just as a normal bag, just when I leave the house, not even cycling related, because then people know. People go, that's a nice bag, that's a musette, he's a cyclist. That's also why.
Or they say, what is that? I don't understand.
Well, that's also why you shave your legs too, right? I mean, you're not really getting any gains as an amateur, but then people could go, shave your legs? Well, yeah, I'm a cyclist.
Cycling's boomed during the pandemic. Like, people needed to go outside. They couldn't really gather indoors. So, Le Club, we've seen it today. Like 100 people at the group ride. There's a lot of interest for cycling. It's probably the highest it's ever been. How do you see that landscape evolving, like the demand landscape? Now that stuff is reopening again, there's other activities that are possible to do other than cycling. Like, do you see that moderating a little bit, or do you still think we're in this massive period of growth for cycling and for cycling fashion as well?
Like I was saying before, like everywhere I've been just recently in the last 2 months all around the world, I've never seen anything like it. I thought it might have dropped off, but it's only gotten stronger, and I think people have come to this new community, made new friends. I think it's going to be pretty hard for them to drop it off. A lot of people have spent a few $1,000s on a bike, few thousand on some kit, helmets, sunnies. By the time you're invested in it, I think it's very addictive as well. So once you get into it,
I love spending money. It's true.
Oh, not the spending money. The cycling thing where we get the obsession.
Yeah, I think once you're in for life. Like that's how it's been for me. I started in the late '90s with mountain biking, and then used that just for a bit of cross training for some other sports I was playing. And then once I found road and went from racing to realizing you can just ride with your mates and have a beer or ride and have a coffee or take it really seriously and do some crit racing. So I just think there's that much diversity within cycling that once you're in. I don't think it's going to drop off. I think it's still got a long way to go. And like all these newcomers are just going to be telling more of their friends and then they're going to come to it as well. And so I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, no, today was for me personally, is the biggest group ride I've ever been on in my life. Usually like the ones we do in Toronto are more like 30, 40. I think we were close to 100 today. So that was pretty wild. But
yeah.
One last thing is there anything you wanted to like talk about in terms of where MAAP's headed? You've already kind of touched on like your plans for the brand, maybe looking at sponsoring a team again. Is there anything else that you want to like mention or talk about or let our listeners know?
No, I think we sort of covered off everything, but I just think we're going to get more involved with the community again, and like we've just started up the MAAP lab with the shop rides, and there's a bit of a focus to get engaged with, like I've come here to see the club myself, and we're getting our team out in the field again, so there'll be a lot more activation with the community. That's kind of my buzzword this year, I suppose, community. And that's probably what I love most about it, is being able to travel with my bike and go to all our fantastic partners around the world, our dealers, and really get to meet the customers. And so I think that'll be a big part of our direction the next 12 months as well, just being in the community more, and which we're sort of working on at the moment. And as you mentioned, we want to get back into the teams again and push out our own stores and just keep bringing out awesome products.
Actually, I have a question for you related to traveling. You've been around North America recently. You said you've been to LA, Miami, New York. Did you do New York as well? Vancouver, Montreal. Of all those cities, which one was the best for riding? I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let you... it definitely wasn't Montreal, because unfortunately, due to illness, you weren't able to get out on the road.
Definitely going to have to say LA, because it's just...
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and
people love it there.
I'd never expected it. I think that's probably the reason just caught me off guard, was I didn't realise how... I've never ridden up so many hills every single day. We don't have that in Melbourne, at your doorstep. And these were some serious rides, and it could, might have only been an hour and a half, but it was 1,000 meters of climbing. And
so LA wrongly has this reputation as, it is a car city. Like, the city was built for the car, but people wrongly assume that it's bad for cycling because of that. And my in-laws live in Los Angeles, and they've told me, no, dude, you don't understand. Like, it's a huge cycling city. You've got these kind of almost these national parks. Brant Sorensen, our good friend Nick Brant Sorensen. You've got like canyons within the city, big climbs. So I definitely need to go on a cycling trip to LA.
I recommend it to everyone listening. Just go there for a week, and there's great rides, great community. You can easily get on some group rides out of Luft. There's a shop there that hosts rides pretty much every day. Not unlike what they do here at the club. There's a good community. You could sort of easily drop in, and the other good thing they got going for it is the weather. It's just pretty much the same every day, and just shorts and t-shirts, and bring your sunscreen.
So it makes us question our choices as to where we live, huh?
Terrible.
Yeah, Toronto sucks.
Thank God for smart trainers and RGT and Zwift and all this stuff to at least keep you semi-interested during the winter. But if...
we're moving to LA. The podcast is moving to LA.
Wow, we're going Hollywood. We're going big time. But
I
got to ask you, because you mentioned you travel with your bike. What bike do you ride? What do you have?
I've got a Willie Air. Filante, and that's a beautiful bike. So I've had that for about a year and a half now.
Nice.
Campag. I'm riding Campag again. It's kind of like all the years of racing on Shimano, riding on Shimano, and this is kind of more of a retirement relaxation bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bike that has a lot of panache, I think we can say.
Well,
Bike
Willier
has
is
a lot of panache.
Yeah, but I was gonna say we haven't talked about Willier a whole lot on the podcast, but they are. I don't know.
They're vintage bikes. They're steel. I've seen this sort of. They have this kind of copper bike that is at a shop in Toronto, and it's just stunning. And they have some enough. But I just want to say, because we're talking about group sets here, we have. On the ride was the club's ambassador Anne, and she rides SRAM, and her chain dropped on the ride.
Okay.
All right, should we do rapid fire with Jarrad, and then we'll do it in the Canal, and we'll rate a bike, and Jarrad will join us for that.
Are you sponsored by SRAM?
Okay.
Okay, all right, Jarrad. Rapid fire questions. So we ask our guests a couple of rapid fire questions. There's usually 2 choices or 3 choices. You answer them quickly, a little explanation. We move on to the next one. First one: white or black shoes?
White.
White or black socks?
White.
Okay.
Nice. Amazing.
Carbon, aluminum, titanium, or steel?
Carbon.
Ooh. Decisive.
Tony, we're getting into the Aussie questions
All
now.
right,
So
all
do you want to do this, Tony?
All right. Beetroot on burgers, yes or no?
Yes.
I like to hear that. Test cricket or limited overs?
Test cricket.
Aussie rules or rugby?
Aussie rules.
Yeah. Americano or long black?
Long black.
That's the. I think North America's got to get into the long black. Everyone's doing the Americano. The long black is better. It's where the water goes first and then the espresso. It actually keeps the crema nicer. I don't see it enough.
The crema.
Yeah, so I'd like to, all our North American listeners, start ordering long black at your coffee shop. Let's make that more popular.
What about Magics? Have you guys heard of Magics?
No.
Okay. Don't know if that's a Melbourne thing or may have started in New Zealand, but it's double ristretto in a very small cup and then just a small amount of milk.
Oh.
So if you come to Melbourne, ask for a Magic.
All right. Okay.
Your cortato might be similar.
Yeah, cortado's sort of half-half, basically.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
that.
just like the name Magic.
That's magical. That's right.
Yeah.
Sounds like they put something wild in the coffee.
Yeah,
Mushrooms.
it's, some psilocybin. Yeah. Melbourne or Sydney for cycling?
Melbourne.
Agreed.
I mean, it's in the name of the.
I am biased because I've never ridden in Sydney. So I'm sorry.
I'm sure there's some Sydney siders that really like it, but I've ridden a bit there, and it feels like a lot of highway. Like you can get out of Melbourne pretty quickly to some nice stuff, or like we've talked with Nick from Velo Kicks, like the Yar Boulevard or Beach Road for kind of morning rides. The Bully.
Bully.
All right, next segment. So we still have Jarrad here with us. So we're going to do our world famous segment Into the Canal, where we throw something from the world of cycling or cycling fashion that we don't like, that we think is bad, is lame, into Montreal's beautiful scenic La Chine Canal. So a very simple concept. The opposite of a canal is called a camélien, which is the climb here in Montreal that we rode a couple times this morning. Tony got to the top of it, so congratulations, Tony.
Barely.
So that's when you want to talk about something that you really like. That's a camélien. So let's do it. Into the Canal. You know, we start with our guest, Jarrad. What do you got, Warren?
What?
You want to say
I was just
something?
going to say it's a missed opportunity to not do a live Into the Canal and actually throw things into the
that's what I
canal.
thought we had to do. I thought we were going down to the canal to throw.
Physically, get this stuff.
We'd have to bring the studio there with us.
Yeah.
Not sure we have the technical know-how.
Not yet, but
why don't we start with our distinguished guest this morning?
Well, this is probably a Melbourne thing. I'm not sure if it's seen over here, but I wanted to throw this into the canal for a while. It's few people I know back in Melbourne wear their socks over their leg warmers, which for me is a big no-no.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
I'm throwing
much.
that in the canal. But I have been told that if it's elastic, you can go over the top, or if it's a zip, you go under.
No.
Personally, I'm always under.
We
I
have discussed this.
This is
and
validation.
Good,
the
good,
co-founder
good.
of MAAP is agreeing with us about this, and yeah. So
No,
we're
I think that
Always.
settles the debate.
yeah, I like.
Italian Alex is going to be devastated.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so our friend Italian Alex, who subbed in for me
He's a guest
couple of
host
times,
sometimes.
he's a guest host. He thinks that socks under the leg warmers is boomer style. He thinks that we got to get on with progress and the new generation, and he thinks that socks over the leg warmers is the way to go.
Is the Gen Z.
I personally think that socks are a base layer and therefore should be worn under the leg warmers.
He's also a huge MAAP fanboy, so I think he's going to be very conflicted
Yeah.
to hear this.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see the point of going over the top.
Yeah.
No.
What if you want to try and get your leg warmers off?
Well, that's another thing, right? The idea of leg and arm warmers, and I'm a big knee warmer fan. I know that that's contentious with some people, but is that you can strip it away. That's why you might not be wearing tights or like a long sleeve, is because you know you're going out cooler and then it'll sort of warm up. So if you've got to stop and take your shoe off and then take your sock down and all this kind of stuff, then it defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
And if you want to create a color contrast between your shoe and your sock and your leg warmer, you can always just wear a shoe cover that's a different color, so you don't need to have your socks go over your leg warmers. I don't see the point personally. I think it's a terrible idea.
I don't like it. That's a great Canal.
Look, we have the co-founder, owner of MAAP, kind of validate our take here, so I'm happy with that.
It's a big no-no from me.
Okay, excellent.
I think we're all in agreement here. Can the
Unanimous.
will the gallery nod? Yeah, everyone here that's watching us agrees.
Okay. Warren, what do you got in the Canal this week?
I'm actually going to be positive 2 weeks in a row, which is
That's a big deal.
it's a big deal for me. I don't. Last episode. So not 2 weeks. 2 episodes in a row. Last episode, I think I did something positive. And this week, I'm going to give a chameleon to chameleon because this was my first time going up it twice. And yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Alex. The hardest climb in the world. I mean, whopping like 5-6 minute effort. Twice. I don't know. That's
Crushing
pretty tough. No,
7% gradients.
yeah, in all seriousness, it's my kind of climb. It's a steady climb with a couple slightly, not too steep punches, but the road was in good condition. Like
Which is
room.
something for Montreal, I have to say, because we're not known for our roads in general.
Quebec in general is terrible roads. So yeah, I that's. And in part, I'll give a chameleon to the club for the ride. Like, despite the size, I felt like it was pretty well organized and
Pretty safe.
I never felt in danger going up or down. So that's a plus. But I'll give a chameleon to chameleon itself because my first time riding it, I don't know what my time was up yet because I haven't uploaded my ride, but we'll see.
Actually, one of the guys from the club is almost the KOM for Chameleon, and that's something because there's some pros up there on the leaderboard, and this guy who is not a pro, he's a Le Club guy, is up there with the pros, so that's very strong. Okay, I'm gonna do my Canal this week. Warren, you talked about safety a little bit, so my Canal is gonna be safety focused. Tony might have canaled this before, I don't remember. We need to start a spreadsheet with these canals, but wearing earphones on a ride. Come on, man. This is not okay.
We've definitely canaled this before.
Especially on a group ride. Like, you could be wearing earphones if you're alone on a rural bike path where there's nobody and you're just TTing it up the bike path. I can live with that. But if you're wearing earphones on a city ride, which might be a group ride, and I'm not saying people did that this morning. I actually didn't see any earphones, but I do see it in Montreal sometimes. If it's AirPods, anything else, come on, man. You can't be wearing earphones.
At the very
when
least,
you're
take
riding.
one out.
No, I think not. I mean, on the sort of topic of safety, right? A good group ride's a lot of not aggressive yelling, right? Car back, pointing stuff out. You've got to be alert. I mean, I've broken a lot of bones in my life, and the last thing I want to do is break more because some guy was listening to Sandstorm to get himself pumped up.
I guess people want to look like Lance Armstrong listening to Johan Bernil's instructions on the
race radio.
The race radio, but ain't no race radio where you're riding. You're just some amateur rider. You don't need it.
I am curious how much faster I would have gone up Chameleon if I had Sandstorm blasting at full volume. I guarantee it would have been faster.
Wood Van Aert style.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, Wood definitely has like implanted in his brain. That's when he does those attacks. He's just thinking of Daru. Just go. I'm not gonna hum the tune of Sandstorm here.
I won't blare it in because then we'll get a copyright claim. So.
Everybody knows
12 seconds
Sandstorm
or something of it.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, what do you got this week?
I haven't seen them in a long time, but I saw a guy out on a ride recently with them. I think they're called wind blockers, and essentially what they are is I've lost it.
Yeah, show us the photo.
Show you the photo.
That's the advantage of being live. We can actually show each other things. It's not online. And now we also have to just wait. I can't cut it out because, it'll ruin the ambiance. I probably will cut this
That's
out.
not how radio works, Tony.
This is live, Tony.
All right, well, you guys are asking to see them. They're like I don't know.
Are we talking about like little sideburns?
Yeah.
Clip-on sideburns?
I don't know. I'm not getting it. But
They
they're
sound
basically
horrible.
clip-on. Okay, so they're basically clip-on sideburns, and they're meant to, when you kind of Google them, they're meant to block the wind and therefore the sound that's coming. And they look ridiculous. Like they're at.
Do you clip to your straps?
Yeah, you click to your straps. They kind of like fold over and Velcro. They're like on the level of helmet, visor, how stupid they look.
What's the point of them?
They're supposed to block the wind and I guess the noise, but I can't. I don't know. Maybe I'm already deaf from all the years of loud music, but like I never have had an issue even going down very fast descents that I do very, very quickly. Where I'm like, oh my god, this wind is just destroying my ears, and it's just the insanity. I mean, I thought when I saw the guy coming up the road, I was actually just walking. The guy was riding. I thought he just had huge sideburns, and I was like, "Fuck, Ron Jeremy's riding," but this is just ridiculous. Like, don't use it. It's useless. I probably kills your aero gains.
I'm going to take a contrarian take just because of what Alex had just said. What if they're doing it so they can hear what's happening? They're being more aware. I don't disagree. I'm sure it looks terrible.
Yeah, but we know on this podcast that
style trumps safety.
Style trumps safety. Like we like safety, but if it's
Looks
sort of
ridiculous?
yeah, like
Yeah.
Okay, so let me retroactively change my Canal. Earphones look stupid. It's not because they're unsafe. It's because they look
no,
stupid.
we can still talk about safety, right? Like, but it's like the helmet mirror. Although again, I debate the safety. I feel like you crash, that thing's going right through your eye. If you the helmet mirror, the little thing like this, and it's just But so safety's good. We don't want to be but like no one on the ride had reflectors on their wheels because it looks terrible.
Right.
Also, I think I've said it before in the podcast, but the only guy I know in Toronto who I've seen wearing a mirror on road rides crashed really badly.
Yeah.
Not because of really, but anyway.
He was too busy looking behind him.
It's true. He did hit a speed bump he didn't see, so maybe.
Can I add another one?
Yeah,
just,
of
just
course.
in that vein, those little mirrors that come off the helmets.
Yeah.
I don't like those.
Yeah.
Have you seen those little like dentist mirrors?
Oh,
that
no, that's
pop-
what we mean.
That's what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
okay,
and
yeah,
just
those
and
are-
I'm saying that I feel like from a safety perspective that if you crashed on that size and you had no glasses on, those little cheap metal things would just shove it. Like it wouldn't even be safe. It would just stab you in the face.
It's actually very fitting that you call them dentist mirrors because in the cycling world, they're also dentist mirrors.
Yeah.
They actually
worn by
come with your
dentists.
Cervelo. When you buy a Cervelo,
When you graduate dental school, they give you a Cervelo and a little
Yeah,
side
they-
mirror
no,
on your
Dentists
helmet.
get 50% off at Cervelo.
I mentioned before my dentist actually does have a Cervelo. So
I've got one more for you as well. It's probably I don't know if it's an Australian thing, but magpies,
yeah, the bird.
and they dive down and swoop at your head. So you've got all these people riding around.
That is definitely an Australian thing.
Do you know what a zip tie is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we call them zip ties. They're zip tied like 10 or
So like a
20 of these
porcupine.
things to their helmets. Yeah, and they're riding around. I'm not joking with zip ties like
That's terrible.
mohawks. It's the most
I'd
ridiculous
rather
thing
take
I've
the
ever seen.
magpie tagging me.
So the zip tie on the helmet, that's in
That's
the
a
canal.
no-go.
Another canal.
Yeah.
I like
that's
how many
definitely-
canals you have. This is great.
It sounds like a
canal.
lot of these helmet attachments aren't.
Yeah, I think the helmet needs to sort of keep.
Yeah,
its,
just wear your helmet and
Yeah.
just keep it
Yeah.
as a helmet, basically.
Dodging the magpie just shows you can handle your bike.
And also, once you put your helmet on, then you put your sunglasses on.
Yes,
Over-
yes,
well,
that-
you
that's
already know
strict.
that, right? Yeah.
That's clear.
I think actually on the most recent or one of the more recent GCN episodes where they did their thing about unwritten rules that should breaking, one of them was that you should be able to put it where you want, and I was like, no, it goes on the outside always.
They were subtweeting
No,
us
I mean
again.
the 10 Commandments of cycling are very
It's in
clear.
there.
It is, I think that's the first commandment. Always put the sunglasses over your
I
straps.
think it is, yeah. Because even the sock thing, like I said, the '90s did have some lower socks, so there is a little bit of play there. But I don't think we've ever seen the strap under the helmet be acceptable. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
Pantani didn't wear a helmet, and he had those. He just,
It's the holy law.
yeah.
Okay, next segment, we're going to do We Rate Your Bike for free. And this week,
It's not really for free,
We
though, because
have-
the club sponsors.
it's true.
This is the one that he's paying.
Actually, the club gets a great deal. They sponsor us, and then we slam their bikes live on the podcast.
Yeah.
So this week, we're very happy to welcome one of the partners of Le Club. His name is Harry Staley. He's actually, as you will tell from the accent, he's actually from the United Kingdom, but lives here in Montreal, and he's a partner in Le Club. And we'll rate his bike live on the podcast. So we're actually going to take a couple of pictures and post it to Instagram so our listeners can weigh in, because our listeners feel very strongly about people's bikes. They want to provide constructive criticism and help people have their bikes look good. So we're going to rate Harry's bike. And this is a really interesting one because it's a very niche bike, I would say, not something that we would see a lot in North America. So how about I let Harry introduce his bike himself, speak into the mic, tell us the story. What do we got here, Harry?
Well, I would go one step further. I don't think there's any in North America. So that makes it pretty unique, but not necessarily for the right reasons. So this is my 7 or 8-year-old race bike. It was my first race bike when I was a junior. It's a limited edition colorway as Team Wiggle. So Wiggle being the retailer in the UK, the sort of staff team, special blue and orange paint job. I should give you the name, right? It's called Eastway was the brand, the in-house brand of Wiggle. And it's the
in-house bike brand?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the Eastway emitter R0 being a special layup, apparently. Not that you can quite tell. Over the last 7-8 years, it's been through every possible build you can imagine. It's had minus 17 degree 130 stems. It's had 80mm deep carbon wheels. It's had all the group sets you can imagine. And now it's sort of settled on this weird hybrid retro mix, weird old components, an old Dura-Ace group set, which is literally falling apart.
So the bike has mellowed a little bit. Like it's entered middle age. It's kind of settled down.
It's no longer a racer's bike.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's gotten married and it's moved to the suburbs.
Yeah, it is a roadist bike. But this has been, as I said, my race bike, my commuter bike.
What is it currently?
Long distance.
It's the club group ride.
It's your group ride bike.
It's to complement the lovely kit I wear from leclub.cc.
It's a salesman.
That's its purpose.
Always on the hustle.
Yeah. So yeah, and now should I explain what it's sort of currently donned with, or?
Yeah, sure. Give us a run.
Yeah, so give us the specs on the Eastway.
Criticize it.
Okay, so rim brake. It's got a non-branded seat post. It has an old Dura-Ace 9000 Group O, which is fully complete, but it now has a sort of sticker over the crank arm because the crank arms were so worn.
So how do we know it's Dura-Ace?
Well, there you go. Unless you take it apart and weigh it, which I'm sure you have better things to do. Old aluminium box section wheels, fellow flex tires.
Sorry, I do want to pause to call out your wheel brand because it's Easton and my local race team is sponsored by Easton. Shout out Easton.
Look at all this hustle. Get that bread, guys.
Yeah, I don't even have Easton wheels on my own bike. But anyway, sorry, go on.
Okay. What's funny is that they are old box sections, yet they're tubeless ready. So weird. I don't know why somebody 10 years ago would be trying to run road tubeless. But
and we know that Warren loves road tubeless.
Oh, fuck, I hate it so much. Anyway, go on.
An old, I can't even tell you what the handlebar and stem is, but little post-carry handlebar bag as well.
Sold at Le Club.
And yes, and a very old specialised saddle in the narrowest width possible. When I had a bike fit 10 years ago, he said I had the smallest, can I say arse?
Yeah.
Smallest arse he'd ever measured. So that is the narrowest
Congratulations.
saddle. Thank you. I think
that's good for cycling.
Yeah. And then some old Elite bottle cages from Halfords in the UK.
Okay.
All right, I gotta start because
Who wants to start?
Tony's raring to go.
Well, because there's one key element that he's really fucked up on, and because he has slammed the stem, which is important, but he's left the chimney on top, and it looks like it's. If I look at it, that's two 10mm spacers. That's 20mm above. That's too much. He's got to cut that. So that's the first step. The Dura-Ace 9000 is one of the best looking group sets. I like that it's rim brake.
If that's actually Dura-Ace.
If that's actually Dura-Ace. Wow.
There's no way to know.
Definitely the chain ring is whether the crank arm is like a 105. He's put a sticker on or something. A little bit of mismatch. Yeah, the colorways kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Canadian Tire bike maybe.
It looks like an All-City.
Like an All-City? I don't want to give it that much credit.
Like the ones that are based off the Toyota. Anyway, go on.
It's something I think Dustin Klein would design probably for sure, right? And then he'd make his car match it. We got the tan sidewalls. We like it. I used to have those Elite bottle cages. I hated them. I don't think they look good. You got to get a Rundell or King Cage or something like that. I'm going to give it a 2.
Two. That's very harsh.
Being a bit facetious here because Harry's a friend, but realistically, I'd say 7.5.
And he's a sponsor, man, of the show. So
Yeah, let's not forget that.
12 out of 10.
Our contract includes editorial freedom, and if they ever take it away, we'll jump ship.
I want to go next because I think Tony's being aggressively critical on purpose. I actually like the colorway. I don't think it looks like a Canadian Tire bike because the Canadian Tire bike, and sorry for Jarrad reference because you're from Australia, Canadian Tire is and for a lot of our listeners who aren't in Canada, Canadian Tire is a chain of sort of like, what do they carry? Like home improvement,
general
like,
retail
it's like
store
a crappier Home Depot.
Yes, but they also sell sports equipment, garden equipment, barbecues, car parts.
Maybe
It's a bit
bike
of a
and your
general
buddy.
store.
Same trip.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and they have their own
Home
like
Depot.
in-house bike brand called Supercycle. And I was gonna say a Canadian Tire brand just says Supercycle. It's like the shittiest bike. I had one when I was a teenager. It was like a mountain bike. It was terrible. I spray painted all over it because I didn't want people to know I had a Supercycle. Anyway, but so the paint job, it's like this. I think there's 3 colors sort of pattern, and it, as I said, it reminds me of an all-city design of one of their gravel bikes a couple of years ago that was inspired by like 80s Toyota paint job. I think it looks like a Radavist color design. Actually, this is the kind of bike. Colorway that John Watson of the Radavist would be all over.
I just want I'm going to bump it up to an 8.5 solely because
He's a sponsor.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
From 2 to 8.5.
No, the 2 was a bit facetious.
Wide range here.
Wide range because I realized that as a snob, I love when someone has something someone else doesn't. So the fact that it's the only Eastway in North America gives it incredible points.
I think.
You think?
Don't hold me to that.
But it is wiggle.
Yeah, it's not even a
Harry.
wibble bike.
So Warren, keep going. What's your mark here?
I'm not quite
overall?
done. Hold on.
Yeah.
So yeah, points for the Easton Wheels because, like I said, my race team is sponsored by Easton.
It's cross
and they
race team.
Yeah, cross. Hey, we could race road. We just don't. Actually, the women on the team race road. None of us do. And then the saddle, the nose of your saddle is, I don't know, it looks like a bird
Angled
beak.
down, yeah.
No, the saddle looks flat, but the nose looks like a bird beak.
Guillaume, will you grab
That's
a
no
level?
good.
Will you grab a level and
Guillaume's
check this
dying
and
of
check the
laughter
saddle
here.
that it's level?
No, that's not level. Yeah. He's and then he's got the bar bag, which for a road group ride got a
A
sorry,
22K road group ride. What are you carrying? What do you need?
It's all of my lovely jewellery and accessories for before, during, and after.
For panache. For panache. Yeah.
You should be wearing your watch and your chain.
So Warren, what's the grade here? What's the mark?
I'm gonna give him a 8.25.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go last.
Jared's got to do it.
So
too.
very high marks for Harry here for a few reasons. First of all, very niche. I love niche stuff. So I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Wow. Never heard of the brand. Never heard of the model. Again, I love niche stuff. You've gone possibly the nichest of the niche. So already there, that starts you at a 9. Tony's already commented on the chimney, on the stem. You got to cut that off, Harry. Just make a statement, cut it off so you can never go back. So have to deduct some points there. The bar bag, Harry, this is a road bike. Bar bags are very gravelly, the big mountain bike conspiracy, which actually we should talk about that. But I was chatting with Christophe from Le Club yesterday, and he actually had a theory that, we have this conspiracy theory that big mountain bike is pulling the strings of everything in the gravel in the road world. And Christophe says it's actually broader than that. It's Big Outdoors who's pulling the strings of big mountain bikes. So I find like you're being manipulated by Big Mountain Bike here a little bit with that Big Outdoors, with that bar bag. So you got to take that off. So deduct a few points here as well. Love the colorway of that bike. The sort of orange, yellow, and red rainbow kind of stripes there. Very like early 1980s, which I love. So that's very good. Rim brake, excellent. Love the rim brake. Save the rim brake. They just look better. And I would have actually taken some points off because you don't have deep section carbon wheels. But in a way, there's a lot of panache to not having deep section carbon wheels because it's like you don't give a damn. You don't really care what other people think. You're like, I'm just gonna run these Easton aluminum wheels, and I don't really care. I'm faster than you guys. This is what I do, and that's a lot of panache in doing that. And panache is an attitude, and Harry just embodies that.
It's true.
So
and he's pretty.
To me, that's
he's
a strong
fast.
9 out of 10. Only thing though, the name of the model, emitter. We're in global warming. We're CO2 constrained here. The fact that you call yourself an emitter, I'm not sure is positive. So it's not very ESG compliant, if you know what I mean. So I would maybe put a sticker over that, or just paint over it and call it the panache or something.
It's like saying all these carbon emissions went into making this carbon bike.
Yeah. So
it's not a great name.
Anyway, strong 9 out of 10 for our lad Harry here at Le Club. I like it.
Yeah. And Jarrad, what's your take? What do you got on it?
Well, you guys have given him pretty high ratings there, like 8s, 9s.
Mine's
It's gonna be hard
between a 2 and an 8.5, somewhere in
Yeah.
that thing. It depends on that. I'm gonna hang out with Harry a little bit after this podcast, and we'll see how it makes me feel.
Yeah, I was sort of starting around a 5, and then bumped it up with his outfit to a 10 because he's looking dripping in MAAP. So
Yeah.
it's getting up to a 10 there. He's got his alt road bib, which goes with the handlebag. If he had some deep carbons on there, I think that would set it off. And he would have, probably got the 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Matching that back with the carbon bags, making a, big statement there. But yeah, I reckon it's around a 7.5.
What do we think of the speed play pedals? 'Cause I think this is the first bike we've seen with the speed plays. And are they original speed plays or Wahoo speed plays?
Original.
Oh.
Wow.
So you have to service them every 3 rides?
You can't ride them on any gravel at all. Like that gravel section tape probably you can't clip in after that.
The bearings are shot.
The handlebar bags and other pedal systems.
Yeah.
For all the grease you have to bring to re-grease the spindle of the speed plate.
Jarrad made me feel bad for not being more critical.
Good.
Because he started at 5, and I'm sorry, Harry, those bottle cages, I got to dock you points. You're going to go back down to 7.8, because I also don't like those.
I had those, and I think Warren was like, "You've got to get rid of them."
Yeah.
Harry, get the Arundel stainless steel. It would look good on that.
It would.
No,
yeah.
tie.
What? They don't make...
Our Arundels is
I don't-
okay. The
don't
King
they?
Cage makes a tie.
Yeah. Or the Arundel steel are...
Oh wait, you guys carry a Rundell, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
so the
get the
Arundel
steel
ones.
ones.
Get the
Order some
Rundell
steel ones. They're anyway, yeah, that I've revoked it. 7.8.
Okay. Well,
That's-
passing grades for Harry. So congratulations, which is good. So yeah.
And then the next episode, when he's not here, we're going to re-rate it and lower our ratings,
But
right?
actually, lots of interesting bikes this morning on the group ride. Actually, there's one bike from Le Club. Laurent, one of the founders of Le Club. We actually have to do his bike on the show at some point because the world has to see this bike.
Yeah.
It's a beauty.
Really is.
Handmade in Montreal here, and everything
Steel.
was thought out perfectly on it. Anyway, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to sell it right away, but we'll do that
We've got to
on
get
a
some
later
photos
episode.
before we leave.
Okay, that's it for another episode of Cycling Fashion Week live from Le Club. Thank you to Le Club for opening up their cafe, their clubhouse to us to record the podcast, for inviting us on the group ride this morning. A lot of fun. Thank you, Jarrad Smith from MAAP. Thank you for visiting Montreal. Thank you for being on the podcast. A lot of fun having you on. We'll be looking forward to what MAAP has to offer in the coming months and years. Big growth plans, it seems. Hopefully a MAAP lab opening not too far from us, but
Montreal will be better than Toronto, but
we'll be watching with
Vancouver,
great
actually.
interest. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Tony, for making the drive from Toronto.
yes, thank you to us. That was a lot of work for
Yeah,
us.
it was. It's a long
Congratulations,
drive.
Tony, for getting to the top of Camigny this morning. Didn't think you could do it, but
I did it twice.
This
and
was
I
very
didn't
good.
I didn't even need anybody to push me.
And again, check out leclub.cc. They think every cyclist should demand more from their cycling experience, and that's why you should go to leclub.cc and see all the new MAAP collections that they are constantly dropping on the website. Fast shipping. They ship worldwide as well. So make sure you get your stuff at leclub.cc. Great coffee, great people. Check them out.
Great people.
Wow, they're a little too fast for us on the
Yeah,
group ride,
exactly.
but they're nice other than that. And thank you, Warren. Thank you, Tony. We will be back in a couple weeks with more Cycling Fashion Week content.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Gonna edit out that clapping.
Yeah, please.